in the upcoming year for you beyond the Daytona 500, what stands out at the moment in your calendar as something that's going to capture that passion that you spoke about with Le Mans, that drive to create your best artwork? What events are upcoming for you?
I'll be at the Miami Grand Prix for the first time, which, it'll be a first for all of us. It'll be a big event for Formula One. It'll be a big event for Miami. I'm really excited about that. That should be, probably a highlight for the year. I'm thinking that I'll hopefully be back in Macau in the end of the year. Hopefully that China will lift a lot of its restrictions, but we'll see how it comes together a little bit closer to that. But honestly, like the Daytona 500, I'm very excited about. We have Super Sebring, which is a combined World Endurance Championship and IMSA WeatherTech event. So we have the 8-hour World Endurance Championship race on Friday, and then we have the 12-hour IMSA WeatherTech race on Saturday at Sebring in March. I've got Formula One testing in Barcelona between the 500 and Sebring. So I'll be kind of a little bit of everywhere, starting to get back to a lot of the more international travel that I've been doing the last several years until coronavirus really shut everything down.
Absolutely. And that's the Barcelona testing that is not going to be publicly broadcast. So that's going to be a really interesting task to capture that in the upcoming Formula One season we have. I'm sure you're more aware than anyone as a fan and someone that works inside of it. Those attention on those cars is going to be very high stakes stuff, I think.
Yeah, and it won't, I think people are really upset that it's not going to be televised, but it wasn't televised until 2 or 3 years ago. So it really won't be that different than it was up until, the last test I did was 2017, I think. And more recently, I haven't been able to go to the testing. So it wasn't that long ago that it was pretty much as it's going to be here. You'll still have a full gamut of journalists covering it, the full gamut of photographers covering it. So it's still going to be really important for pictures and content from the teams and editorial outlets. But to be honest, being standing there trackside and watching, Williams or a Haas just do laps for 8 hours isn't that exciting. You get brief stints of Lewis Hamilton doing 5 or 6 laps, and then Max Verstappen doing 5 or 6 laps. But in general, F1 testing is not very exciting. It's great for photography, but it's not very exciting viewing.
Sure. And so lastly, just as a fan, could I have one prediction for the upcoming Formula One season? What do you think is going to be upcoming? We had Jonathan Wheatley a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, and he spoke about how he sees a resurging Ferrari, the Ferrari power unit coming up, their driver pairing coming together, and that team looking strong, being clearly thirdly best. What do you think is upcoming from your perspective?
Even looking backwards a little bit, I think we're really fortunate, speaking as an F1 fan, because yes, I work in the industry. Yes, I work in motorsport. Yes, I cover Formula One, but I'm still at the heart of all that I am, just a Formula One fan with a camera. And I think we're all hugely fortunate to have an incredible championship that we were able to watch last year, because as a fan that has been around for a long time, I've seen some really horrifically boring championships. So when you have a championship that goes down to the last lap of the last race, even though it's slightly controversial at the end, seeing Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen banging wheels is a great thing for the sport. It's a great thing for us as fans. So honestly, if Mercedes doesn't screw it up, I don't see how Lewis doesn't win this championship, because he's going to come back swinging from what happened in Abu Dhabi, but just generally feeling motivated, feeling refreshed. I think he'll be a completely, he's going to come out just ready to take on anyone and everything. But I think, you have that, but you also have Max Verstappen, who's maturing and growing and learning how to fight a championship and being a world champion now. I think the two of them together are just going to create epic battles. I think that's what we all want. We don't want somebody to just blow the competition out of the water. That's not very exciting. You want them to earn it. You want them to win it in ways that are just not boring for everybody to watch. And then you throw in, kind of the X factor, the question marks, like Ferrari, Alpine could be strong. We don't know. Maybe Haas will come out of the gate and have, a Braun type car where they've done something that nobody else was thinking of, and they are suddenly on the podium. It's unlikely, but it's entirely possible when you have rule changes this big, just like we had from 2008 to 2009. And that's really exciting for me, that we have all these question marks now, that it'll be great racing. You have remotivated Lewis, you have a really motivated Verstappen, great championship battles, new tracks, a long season, unfortunately. But I think I'm really excited. I think it's a good thing for all of us. So the message to all the toxic people out there that just want one or the other, just be thankful that you've got great racing to watch.
Absolutely. That's a brilliant message there for everyone, whatever fan allegiance you may have, especially after Abu Dhabi. It felt, it was an amazing season, but I think it was also a tough time to be. I think you can speak as well, someone who is so actively engaged in the social media side of F1. It was tough to be proud of the sport in that moment. I thought it was like, come on, what are we doing here, guys? Let's really, it's at its core, it's still kind of a show, and we need to have a little bit more of that respect. So if that's something that can come back into the sport in 2022, I think that will be really amazing. And I also wanted to touch on the wild card of George Russell. I think, to me, he's that big wild card of, well, he's not going to be like Valtteri Bottas. I mean, we saw when he subbed in when Lewis Hamilton had COVID in 2020 season, he had no plan to be a second driver that weekend, and now he has a full season with a new car. How's he going to get his nose in? If he underperforms, how's that going to be taken by the British media? That's really the wild card for me, and something I'm excited to cover.
He's definitely not going to roll over, and Red Bull touched on it too as well, that saying that the better that George Russell does, the better it will be for Verstappen's championships, championship chances. And for anyone that doesn't understand that, like, you have to understand, you don't want two drivers fighting for the championship. You have to have a number one and a number two, and the more closely or evenly matched they are, they just take points away from each other. So, whether Checo can up his game and basically be the same kind of contention for Verstappen would be the only way that you get, a more even playing field across 4 drivers or even 6 drivers if you then have Ferrari in there.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be fascinating to have George Russell, who's now very experienced in a slow car. I think he's probably learned a lot from that. Lewis has never had that kind of opportunity to be at the back of the field. So it's going to be very interesting.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to covering it here on the show and seeing some of the amazing artwork that you're going to be able to capture throughout the forthcoming year. So I think we can wrap up the episode there. This has been a real treat for me. It's a brilliant insight, and I hope everyone enjoyed listening to it. I'll let Jamey take over now to promote anything he would like to promote. But thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Jack. I really appreciate it. You can see a lot of my pictures on any social media platform you wish, all at Jamey Price Photo.